He was the last country to disappear after World War II, and basically nobody recognizes him. Late September 2023, almost all the people in the country fled at the same time. Cold rain in the Caucasus Mountains. On a mountain road only 2 lanes wide, cars lined up end to end, 50 kilometers of steel chain long. The smell of bad gasoline was in the air, the cries of babies and despair everywhere. In the car was 120,000 Armenian. They're not traveling. He's on the run. They had battered mattresses strapped to the roof, a few changes of clothes, and the remains of ancestors dug up from ancestral graves, overnight bones, because they know once you leave, I'll never come back. What kind of power can 120,000 people in just a few days abandoning the homes where generations have lived? Even the bones of the dead must be taken with them. The answer is a cold presidential decree. September 28, 2023, Nagorno-Karabakh Republic. The last leader of Naka signed a document. Document stipulates from January 1st, 2024, dissolve all state institutions. The Republic of Nagorno-Karabakh has existed for 32 years. It was completely erased from the earth. No day of mourning, no flag lowering ceremony, only silent exile. Welcome back to the world, reorganizing the life and death of 80 nations, reading 80 years after World War II. I am the leader, Yongwei here. We want to say a special word. This is us. After World War II, the most in the series of countries or regimes that have perished. The next episode starts from the next episode. We will turn a new page in history to talk about those who came after World War II, a country born from the ruins of an empire. Today, let's look to the mountains of the Caucasus. Go see a 32-year regime. How was it used as a bargaining chip at the table of the great powers? Finally abandoned mercilessly. What is the first act of a powder keg in the Caucasus? Why should one have its own government? The army, and a place with a population of hundreds of thousands, say no. And it's gone. To understand the tragedy of Naka, we have to turn the clock back 100 years. Naka covers an area of 4,400 square kilometers. It's about 3 times the size of London. And the geography is kind of a knot. It is geographically surrounded by Azerbaijan. It's like being in the great ocean of Azerbaijan. Alone on an island, however, this island is inhabited by, but the vast majority, it's a Christian Armenian. And surrounding them is an Azerbaijani who believes in Islam. Who tied this dead knot? Soviet Union. Stalin used to draw maps with the stroke of a pen. Naka, where Armenians lived, the painting was given to the jurisdiction of the Azerbaijan River. This was called division at the time. As long as Big Brother, the Soviet Union, is still there, none of the younger brothers below dare to move a knife. But in 1991, the vast Red Empire came crashing down. Big Brother is gone. Decades of repressed ethnic hatred. It erupted like a volcano. The first Nagorno-Karabakh War broke out. The Armenians at that time fight like a wolf. They relied on weapons stolen from Soviet warehouses, forcibly beat back. The Azerbaijani army not only controls the entire Nagorno-Karabakh, also occupied 7 surrounding Azerbaijani districts. As a safety buffer, people died. 30,000 battle. Millions of Azerbaijanis have become refugees, forced to leave their homes. The Armenians, one, they proclaimed the establishment of the Republic of Nagorno-Karabakh. But remember this: a gift from fate already won the bidding price. Armenians believe that they won permanent independence, but actually they just won the 30-year reprieve. Act 2, dimensionality reduction in the drone age. Flesh twilight. The time has come to 2020. The world has changed in 30 years. Azerbaijan relies on the oil and gas from the Lee Sea, make a lot of money. They spent tens of billions of dollars from Turkey, and Israel bought the most advanced weapons. However, in Armenia, due to economic stagnation, the army still uses Su-Shur from the last century-old antique. September 2020, Azerbaijan launched the famous 44-day war. This war, it sends a chill down the backs of military observers around the world. This is not war. This is a one-sided massacre. This is the drone era for flesh and blood. Dimensionality reduction. Strike in the robes of Naka. Young Armenian soldiers carrying AK-47 staring vigilantly at the horizon ahead. But death is from heaven. Turkish-made TB2 drone hovering like a ghost thousands of meters in the sky. Azerbaijani operator in front of the screen. It's like playing a video game. Press the button lightly. A few fresh lives in the stand. A second later, along with their old T-72 tanks, turn into a ball of fire. In an instant, you can't hear the planes. No sign of the enemy, only death comes at random. The courage of Armenians in the face of absolute technical differences become worthless in 44 days. Thousands of Armenian troops were killed. The entire line of defense collapsed. If not for Russia's last-minute mediation, 2,000 peacekeepers were deployed. That card will no longer exist in 2020. The truth is now out of range of the cannon. In the 21st century, the truth is within the range of the drone. Act 3. The wife of the great power game. The longest asphyxiation. Do you think it's over if you can't beat it? The cruelty of the great power game has just begun. Naka wants to live. You have to rely on a highway called the Lachin Corridor. This is their route to Armenia, the only life infra for food and medicine. End of 2022, the Azerbaijanis cut off this life infra. The lockdown lasted for 9 months. 120,000 trapped in the mountains. Supermarket shelves are empty. I can't find even the most basic antipyretics in the pharmacy to buy half a piece of hard bread. Pregnant women have to be in the winter night of -10 degrees, go to the queue at 4 a.m. because of malnutrition. And we saw heart in this city. Tess, no gasoline. The ambulance is parked and rusting. We can just barbecue at the door north. What bins stir international niche people? Agricultural? V. Issues clever. Nor? What about the big countries that are full of benevolence and morality? And this is the hardest part. Let's take a look at the situation at that time. Russia is mired in the quagmire of the Ukrainian battlefield, overwhelmed. And here's what's even worse. Prime Minister of Armenia Pashinyan is wildly ogling the West. They even engage in joint military exercises with the U.S. military. This completely infuriated Putin. Facing the blockade, Russia, the peacekeepers stationed in Nagorno-Karabakh, can only choose stay put, keep silent. Europe has imposed sanctions on Russian energy. Europe urgently needs new natural gas alternatives. Azerbaijan, it's the top gifter who can give Eurocard. The president of the European Union even flew to Baku. Praise Azerbaijan as a reliable partner for natural gas. Europe's Jung Hyuk's collective response to Naka's suffering. I close my eyes. The Americans flew to Armenia to take pictures of the clock in Armenia, and he issued a few mild reviews. Then pat your butt and leave. Not a single bullet was left. History is cold. Human nature is connected. Naka, it's like a lion on a pawn shop counter. Pocket watches. When great powers need to exchange benefits, he was pawned without hesitation. Act 4. The 24-hour war of extermination. 120,000's escape of the century. September 19, 2023. Azerbaijan has lost its last patience. The cannon roared again. This is for once blitz for final solution. This time, there is no miracle, no foreign aid. Just 24 hours later, the Nagorno-Karabakh authorities announced that they would lay down their arms, accept full disarmament immediately after. That's what we saw in the opening scene. In just 1 week, more than 100,000 Armenians escaped from the land that has lived for centuries. They can't take the house, can't take the orchard. Only before leaving burned down his house. They would rather reduce their homes to ashes. I don't want to leave it to the enemy and those who have an ancient monastery with a history of thousands of years. The priests rang the last bell, then locked the heavy door. Take the icon on the road of exile, a regime that has existed for 32 years. So, in a few days of rolling wheels vanish. Act V. The cold echo of the law of the jungle. Is weakness original sin? So that's it. Many people may feel sympathy for Armenians scolding Azerbaijan for being cold-blooded, but in the context of international politics, we have to look at the problem dialectically. What Azerbaijan recovered is recognized by the international community, their own territory. When the Armenians prevailed 30 years ago, they are equally deported millions of Azerbaijanis. It's not just black and white. This is a century-long blood debt. It is two ethnic groups in this small land. Spirit, some game death of Naka for everyone in the world. Bloody class. Since the end of World War II, since the establishment of the United Nations, my generation has been indoctrinated with the idea that any use of force to change the status quo will be sanctioned by the world. But in 2024, the death of Naka ruthlessly tore off the so-called peace of the West, the rules-based international order. Department of Science. Look. When the Azerbaijanis or the Armenians were forced into exile, time no major power has actually stepped up and imposed sanctions. Why? Because the old hegemony is weakening. The new order has not yet been established. When the superpowers were in Eastern Europe holding each other back in the Middle East, when you were overwhelmed the regional powers. I can smell blood keenly. Azerbaijan saw this once-in-a-lifetime vacuum period make a decisive move, completed more than one physical task. By force, the map is out in this jungle of the jungle. When you don't have enough strength, the United Nations resolution in your hand, in the eyes of drones thousands of meters high, just one waste paper that can be ignited by artillery fire. at any time. The tragedy of Naka is not limited to the Caucasus. He's more like a blaring anti-aircraft siren. He declared that relies on the ultimate treaty we can preserve the era of peace may be leaving us Chingu. As we said earlier, the law of the jungle truth, the law of the jungle only within drone range is quietly returning. The 6th Act series summary, the Iron Law of 19 national deaths. The calendar for 2024 is open. Naka has become a historical term looking back at our world reorganization series, the 19 issues that have passed the 19 countries and regimes that collapsed after World War II, like a seat, a tombstone that stands in the river of time in these 19 national deaths. So what do we see? We saw non-US warehouse under the iron fist of Saigon Emperor flees. It was the embarrassment after the agents of the great powers were abandoned. We saw Higgin reluctant annexation at the muzzle of India. It was a small country in the mountains, surrounded by a geopolitical behemoth chewing and swallowing sorrow. We saw East Germany carnival and dissolution at the fall of the Berlin Wall. It is inevitable after the collapse of the ideological myth. We saw Naka again today, in the shadow of drones. Escape of the century, that's the right to exist for the weak in the age of high technology. Dimensionality reduction strike these 19 torn maps. These are not isolated incidents. They use the displacement of tens of millions of people prove to us the cold iron law of history. Peace without strength to defend. It was never meant to exist naturally. Peace and stability, it's just that in human history extremely ephemeral exception and turbulent reorganization and destruction are the eternal norm. Many people feel that history is cold, but when we understand these 19 funerals, let's go back and look at ourselves. You might feel differently today when you are holding your phone and blowing on the air conditioner, eating takeout, when swiping the short videos steadily. Have you ever wondered why? It's not because the world has become civilized. It's not because the beasts in the jungle have switched to vegetarianism. It's because of the ground you stand on has a rebuild capable of overturning any card table. Own something that is not used as a bargaining chip by anyone. Absolute strength. The fate of the weak is made to be compassionate, but the fate of the strong is written by themselves. Next episode preview. Next time we're going to turn around, go and see those nascent regimes. 1946, just as the ironwood of the Cold War was falling, a vast grassland in the heart of Asia, in the compromise and transactions between the two camps of the United States and the Soviet Union became established by the Yalta system, the first part test field. The next episode will decrypt it for you. 1946, Outer Mongolia, Earth element change. Shuremo pays attention to Yongguo. We are together in the bones of others. Understand the laws of survival in this world. See you next time.